So here you bring up one of the best examples of how Clueless allowing people to have censorship power. So now you're going to talk about new knowledge. If people don't know, we've covered it on this. There's a Russiagate is turning out to be a big grift. There's no evidence for it, which we've been asking for evidence for over 2 years. There isn't any. And it's not that we're Trump fans. It's just that we're fans of sanity. And there's a group called New Knowledge. And it's made up of people who used to work in the intelligence community, State Department, things like that. And they're the ones who have been writing these reports. New Knowledge have been writing these reports that the Senate Intelligence Committee has been using to spread all their scare tactics around, right? And they've been saying, oh, there's Russian bots here, there's Russian bots there. And then all the newspapers write all the stories based on New Knowledge's report of Russian bots, right? And they go, oh, look, Russia was controlling Black Lives Matter. Russia was controlling gay people. Russia was controlling environmentalists. You thought you liked Bernie Sanders, but that was because Russia on Twitter with their bots. And then it got turned out. And so the people writing all those stories, that the information came from New Knowledge, their investigation, New Knowledge. But it turns out that New Knowledge got caught in the Alabama race actually inventing fake Russian bots and then saying it was Roy Moore they were supporting. And Roy Moore's like, what are you guys, crazy? You guys just invented that. Turned out they did invent it. And New York Times even wrote a story about it that outed John Morgan and the other guy, his name is Fox, that run New Knowledge. And so Facebook actually banned one of the guys from Facebook because they got caught doing the very thing. So that's called a grift. Why would New Knowledge do this? Because they're going to sell you the solution to Russian bots. That's why. So these guys who used to work in the intelligence community, they create this company called New Knowledge. They create a fake problem. They invent Russian bots. Then they're going to sell you the solution to it. So that never gets reported in the news that happened, and those people aren't even banned on Twitter, and you're going to bring that up right now. Watch this.
You don't think we should have any rules about abuse and harassment? So even the threats that you received, that you
under
mentioned
U.S.
that we
law.
did, but you mentioned a number of threats that you received, and you were quite frustrated that we hadn't taken action on them. You think we shouldn't have rules that?
I'm frustrated because of the hypocrisy of when I see the flow of one direction, and then what I see are Republican politicians who, in my opinion, are just too ignorant to understand what the hell's going on around them. And I see people burning signs that say free speech. I see you openly saying we recognize the power of our platform and we're not going to abide by American norms. I see the manipulation of Twitter in violation of our elections. I see Democratic operatives in Alabama waging a false flag campaign using fake Russian accounts, and the guy who runs that company has not been banned from your platform, even after it's been written by the New York Times he was doing this. So we know that not only are people manipulating your platform, you have rules that remove honest American citizens with bad opinions who have a right to engage in public discourse, and it's like you recognize it, but you like having the power. I'm not quite sure at what point.
So just to get back to my point.
So now here she is. She's going to reveal she doesn't have any idea who the New Knowledge is.
The Russians do, for example, in the 2016 election. So it was that playbook and that type of activity that we saw about Jacob Wall.
So she's explaining that they banned Jacob Wall because they found out he was doing the Russia stuff, right?
He was running fake accounts.
Right. Okay.
And that's why his accounts were suspended.
Did you investigate Jonathan Morgan?
I don't know who that is.
Why?
Neither.
That's the important question. Why?
I don't know who that is.
Well, that's
it might be that someone at Twitter investigated.
She has no idea who the guy is who's been writing the reports for the Senate Intelligence Committee who got caught doing the exact thing he's claiming he's investigating and got banned from Facebook. She doesn't even know that. And I showed you another thing. Twitter just found out that half the Russian bots they thought were Russian, they just figured out are Venezuelan. How convenient. You have a boogeyman that's movable. Isn't that amazing? So they weren't Russian bots. Turns out they were Venezuelan. So why don't you guys just stop this already? Stop trying to figure out who's a bot and who's not, and let everybody go on Twitter and do their thing. She doesn't even know who that guy is. She doesn't even know who New Knowledge is. That's criminal that she doesn't know that.
And Jacob Wall, in all likelihood, is just he's 21, and he was probably just talking out his ass.
He's just no one took that guy seriously. I thought that guy was a prankster. That guy's like a joke, right? He said he had inside information on Mueller or something.
Trying to accuse him of assault.
He called a press conference that was like a comedy sketch, right? I mean, that guy's like a joke and whatever. So they had to ban him, I guess, whatever. And But the thing that she doesn't know about is the actual problem.
New Knowledge provides basically all of the intelligence to the Senate Intelligence
Yes.
Committee on Russia. She doesn't.
And they got caught. They're frickin' lying grifters. The people who everybody's basing their knowledge. And you know, all those.
It's political operations. They're doing
Yes.
this to benefit their political faction or whatever company hired them. And I guarantee you they'd swing whatever direction offered the biggest paycheck.
No doubt about it. Here, let's see if there's any more of this clip.
Him. I personally don't know who that is.
So one of the issues that I think is really important to get to is you should know who he is. He's more important than Jacob Wall is. But for some reason, you know about this conservative guy and not the Democrat who helped meddle in the Alabama election.
Well,
so Jonathan, according to the New York,
the sheer volume that they have.
So, and I appreciate what Joe's saying too. It's all the sheer volume. But no, New Knowledge is not just another run of the mill. It's the central character in the story of Russian bots.
And we're talking about they saw a USA Today story where Jacob Wall claimed he was running bots, and they went, "Oh, we better do something." But they didn't see the Washington Post and the New York Times. I don't believe that.
That is almost criminal that they don't know who that guy is and who New
it's
Knowledge
worse.
is. Now, someone said to me that they think that they did know. She does know who he is, but she doesn't want to let on because they didn't ban him, and she knows they didn't ban him. So if she reveals that she does know who he is, it would look even worse for them than than saying she doesn't. What do you think?
I didn't want to get super personal because I've looked her up, I've looked in her history, and she's very clearly on one side of the cultural debate. So it's possible. I'm not going to accuse her of anything, but there's a lot of things I didn't get to. Like, of course, Twitter can read your DMs if they want to. It's stored in their database. They can read all your private information. They claimed, "Oh, I don't know. I don't think so." And so they have to know who this guy is. They later go on to claim, "Oh, we did investigate that guy and we banned his bots." And I went, "But not him."
You're kidding me.
And she goes
so
on,
the bots he invented, they
Right.
banned, but they didn't ban Jonathan Morgan.
And here's the thing. She says, "Well, we couldn't connect him to them, so we couldn't ban him." And I was like, "He said he did it in the New York Times."
Said he did it.
And she
He
said,
admitted it.
But then she goes, "Are we just going to take the word of the New York Times and ban some? We can't do that." And I said, during the campaign that was going on where you acknowledged the bots existed and banned them, he tweeted out a graphic claiming it was a real phenomenon. And this is the most damning thing. He said, "Oh no, look at all the Russian bots flocking to Roy Moore." His company did it.
His company did it.
You banned the bots that did it. He said he acknowledged it as an experiment to the New York Times.
Yeah, after he got caught.
And there's a tweet of him helping push the narrative from his company.
Right, a fake narrative.
And then you said, "I don't know who he is." And here's a lot of people have criticized. She said, "I don't know
I'm
who
going
that."
to challenge the veracity of her statement.
So a lot of people.
That's how you call someone lying. They say they're lying in a nice way. I challenge the veracity.
A lot of people have claimed have pointed this out. She goes, "I don't know who Jonathan Morgan is." And then I later explained, and she goes, "Oh, but we banned all his bots."
So she does know him. That's what I'm saying.
She didn't maybe know his name, but come on.
How would she know if she banned his bots?
Right.
So that's what I'm saying, that my bullshit detector went off when she said that she didn't know who he was. I don't know who that. You don't really?
There's a photo of her with Hillary Clinton.
So
I'm not saying that proves anything. I don't want to get conspiratorial.
I don't.
But I think we can also play the grains of sand in a heap. She's a Hillary supporter. She tends to, like, you can hear her talk about how I didn't know about this guy, but I knew about this guy. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but if people want to make the accusation based on the circumstantial evidence that a Democratic operative who was helping her party didn't get banned after doing this, and then there's a photo of her with Hillary, maybe she's a supporter, and maybe that's true. I'm not going to lay any accusations, but you can entertain them.
Okay, let me see if there's any more to this.
Pay attention to in all fairness.
Right. But it's about grains of sand making a heap in the flow of a direction where we can see Jacob Wall has said he's done this, so you're like, we're going to investigate, we ban him. It was recently reported and covered by numerous outlets that a group called New Knowledge was meddling in the Alabama election by creating fake Russian accounts to manipulate national media into believing that Roy Moore was propped up by the Russians. Facebook banned him, as well as 4 other people, but Twitter didn't. He's still active.
We did ban the accounts that were engaged in the behavior.
Yeah. I do remember
Well,
sending this to
Yeah.
There she is admitting that she does know it.
The story was broken by the New York Times, covered extensively by the Washington Post. Jack just said, "I believe I did send this to Vijaya," which means what did he exactly send her? If she read the stories,
right,
his name is commenting on the stories. That's how I found him.
Yeah.
Did she not find him? What happened there?
Yeah, Jonathan Morgan admits that they did it, and then he tried to pretend we were doing it as an experiment. You're doing it as an experiment, so you could then so you could grift off it. So then
Can can I just point out the absurdity of the national media believing that?
No kidding.
Like, oh, all of a sudden a bunch of bots followed Roy Moore.
Moore?
They had Cyrillic in their bios. Cyrillic alphabet, Russian. What if the Russians were trying to prop him up? Why would they make very obviously Russian accounts? That's the stupidest thing I ever heard, but it worked. The national media covered it. We're duped by it.
I know.
At least they uncovered the scheme, though. You know, to their credit.
And they
It's
did,
insane.
and they did report it. Didn't get, again, their correction doesn't get half the attention as the original story.
And here's where it gets worse. When they write fake news, they make money on ads. A day later, they write a retraction. The retraction doesn't get anywhere near the traffic,
Right, of course.
but it still makes money too.
They
make all the money. They keep it all after the fake news or otherwise.
So there they are, just admitting. Now, Jack, it took a while for him to admit that he knew it. It took a while for her to admit that she knew it.
Maybe they didn't know the guy's name. But I have to question, why would you know Jacob Wall's name?
Yeah.
They knew his name. Oh, we know who he is. We banned him for this reason. What about Jonathan Morgan? I don't know who that is.
Come on.
And that's why I said, why don't you know who he is?
Yeah.
Why would you know one, not the other?
Let's see if there's any more to this.
on our team.
That's worse, though. So you didn't ban the guy doing it, but you banned the people. So
in the case of Jacob Wall, we were able to directly attribute through email addresses and phone numbers his direct connection to the accounts that were created to manipulate the election. If we're not able to tie that direct connection on our platform, or law enforcement doesn't give us information to tie attribution, we won't take action. And it's not because of political ideology. It's because we want to be damn sure before we take action on accounts.
So someone could use a VPN, perhaps, and maybe...
I just love what she goes, because we want to be damn sure. You guys aren't damn sure of shit. They're not.
Or maybe
half
they
the
are.
people you ban, you're not sure of. Half the people you suspend, you don't know what's going on. Oh, sorry, we made a mistake. Oh, we're working on it. Through the whole interview, they're like, we know we're not doing it right. We're trying to get better. And that whole thing, we make damn sure. You're not damn sure. Look at what. How about when they banned the guy from Daily Caller? Were you damn sure about that?
That was, and they tried doing it was a harassment campaign. I'm like, no.
That is so ridiculous.
By all means,
I tweeted that.
By all means, drag the Daily Caller and talk about their biased coverage. They're
Sure.
biased out. They're biased left, right. But the dude's just a pundit. He's
Right.
he's an editor in chief. Just call me his official title.
And why can't you insult journalists in general? That's my gig. My gig is insulting journalists. I thought they were. What are you talking? Why can't you do that?
And Joe gave me pushback for this, and I totally disagree. I said George Carlin would not be allowed to do his bits today.
Well, I was saying, you said that?
Yeah.
I was saying this. I go, so if I said shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, and tits on Twitter, I would
Tits,
probably
fart,
get
turd, and
banned,
what?
right?
Well, you wouldn't get banned, but you'd get banned for the bit he did where he said every racial slur you could think of and then called Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy the N-word to make a point about context and how we should be concerned about racists and not someone saying something stupid. This was a theater full of liberals cheering on George Carlin saying like 50 racial slurs in a row. And he said, I don't mean to deride, offend, or do anything to because I respect these people. It's the racist asshole behind the words we need to be focused on. Personally, I don't agree with, racial slurs in that capacity either. The point I'm making is this was a cultural moment for liberals in this country when George Carlin made a point about why context is important that would never be allowed today. In fact, if he was alive today, they'd probably use that and come after him to get him fired. But Joe,
I remember that bit. I totally remember that bit. I remember it being really like, wow, he's really getting away with a lot of stuff right now. I remember thinking that.
And it's important to recognize there's different times. Times change.
Yeah.
I'm not going to hold it over him. But the point about context is still really, really important. And even Jack in Vijaya said it over and over again. But I bring it up because Joe was like, no way, no, Joe, George would totally be allowed to do all these things. And I'm like, no, man, George Carlin was offensive. He got arrested for being offensive. And that's a world I don't want to go back to. Do I like that he did a bit where he was racial slurs? I don't like that. I'm younger, so I'm probably more progressive than he was. But George Carlin is an epic liberal of a past generation who stood up to censorship and said the seven words you can't say on TV. He got arrested for it. I don't want to go back to a world where snooty, tie-wearing, elite rich people are determining what we're allowed to talk about or wear or all that other stupid, shit. Just like, no. Let's we you have to take the good with the bad. And if we give precedent to these big companies to get away with this kind of stuff, they'll come for you too. How many times we got to say that poem,
Well, that's the craziest thing too, right? Like when even my close friends like Steve O, I had a big heated conversation with him on the other show I do, Aggressive Progressives. We had a huge kind of a, blowout, but about, like, I was just flabbergasted that this isn't a new idea that if you don't stand up for the free speech of someone you hate, then they're going to come for you eventually and probably sooner than you think. And I just don't understand, like, this is about, and if you want to take someone's speech away, that's the only point I was really making, that if you want it, and that's the overall point to all this stuff, is that if you want to take someone's free speech away or the right to use social media, there has to be a consistent, transparent process with an impartial judge or a jury of your peers, and you get to see the evidence against you and you get to confront your accuser. That's our values as Americans. Those are the norms, as you put it.
Right.
Those are American norms, and if you want to violate American norms, I'm going to push back against that.
That's why I proposed a jury system, because they do that on Periscope.
Yeah.
Basically, the idea would be if someone reports a tweet, then depending on how many reports it gets sent out to a variety of 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 people. So if 1,000 people report a tweet, 10,000 people they see it and says, should this be removed? Is this a violation of acceptable behavior? And you can say yes or no, and that removes all bias. It's a random sampling of individuals, and you can't accuse Twitter of wrongdoing because it's like, well, your peers determined you crossed the line in what is acceptable.
I still find that very Orwellian, and I don't need someone to do that. I don't need someone. Again, if we're going to look at it as a public space, Twitter or Facebook, and we're going to look at them as commons, right?
Yeah.
Then you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to tell people to talk nicey.
And that's why I like the idea of a jury system, but it's still compromising with them on their restrictions on speech.
Yeah, it still sounds like a dystopian future. That we accept. We accept that you willingly. Oh yeah, save me from the bad. And it's like, again, it's like save me from terrorists. Now we live in a surveillance state. I grew up, Tim. I'm older than you, like by a generation. I'm old enough to remember when we used to make fun of Russia because they lived in a surveillance state. Now we live in a surveillance state. And it's all because they're going to protect us. And what I see Twitter doing, and Jack and whatever, is what they're doing is they're going to protect us, and what they're really going to do is wreck it.
This is why people call it the regressive left.
Mm-hmm.
It took us how many thousands of years to come to a point where we're like, we're going to let you speak even if we don't like it,
right?
Lest we get that taken away from us. Well, they want to revert that. And I'll say one of the scariest things for me is my policy positions have not changed. Like when I was younger, I was like an anarchist, leftist, doing all the bad stuff. And then I became more moderate, center-left type, like Bernie Sanders. And now I'm watching people that I used to know as Bernie Sanders supporters being turned off by the censorship and the repressive behavior, and they just immediately flip to Trump. And sure, you can say whatever you want about their principles in that regard, but I explain it this way. Listen, if you've got Antifa on one side bashing people, insulting people, people are being banned, even people on the left, and they look to their right and there's someone with a red hat and a beer saying, come over here, we're the nice people.
Right.
They're going to walk right over. I understand some people are strong enough not to do that. I will never abandon my principles. I know what I believe and why I believe it, but I've watched too many people that they're socially driven. They don't know enough, and they see that happy, smiling Trump supporter hat and face saying, like, we got the beers and we will never hurt you. And then they look to their left and someone's scolding them for the bad words they say. You shouldn't say that. You're not allowed to say that, and say, you know what, this is boring. I'm out. And they go and hang out with the people who are posting memes and having a joke. And then once again, you have a similar circumstance where then you have the alt-right trying to do the same thing with a friendly wave and a beer. And that's the path to extremism. And it starts with rejecting people and telling them what they can or can't do and being authoritarian. And that's what scares me.
Yeah, it feels very authoritarian that we're gonna shape your behavior. Well, in fact, he even says it. So this is to me this
like
is
a mom.
This is kind of to me. My skin started to crawl as I heard him say this, and what made my skin crawl about it was that he doesn't realize actually what he's even really saying. So what let's play it. He's talking. He's going to tell us all the steps that he goes through before he imposes this is his censorship algorithm. Is what he's going to tell us.
I hear the point. I definitely hear the point in terms of like us putting this rule forth, but we have to balance it with the fact that people are being driven away from our platform.
I hear you.
And they may not disagree. They may not agree with me on that, my folks from Missouri, but I think they would see some.
So basically what he just said there, correct me if I'm wrong, is that, look, I get it. These are bad. Some people don't like these rules, but I'm going to do this because I want to retain customers. Yeah. That's what he just said. People are fleeing the platform, meaning, hey, I've got a bottom line. We have a board. I have $1 billion investor from Saudi Arabia. We have a lot of pressure on us, and people are leaving our platform. So if I have to curtail people's free speech, even that's what that sounds like, right?
That's what he's saying.
He's saying it because it's commercially.
But this is what I explained in the beginning. They have 126
So it's
million.
not a principle. That's about money. That's not a principle.
Exactly. They have 126 million daily active users around the world. So that means even if they're the majority in the U.S., they do not have most of the U.S. population engaging on their platform. So they don't care about you and what we find acceptable and what we're allowed to talk about. They don't care about our elections. All he cares about is that 126 becomes 127.
Yeah.
And that means So here's what's going to happen. He's going to remove everybody interesting. Someone commented on Reddit. They said, I don't use Twitter anymore because all the funny accounts I followed have been banned.
Ha!
There you go.
Well, they banned Peter Douche, right? Didn't they do that, Ron? So we follow this guy who's a parody of Peter Dow. He doesn't even call himself Peter Dow. He calls himself Peter Douche.
Yeah.
And they banned him. Right?
Yep.
Am I wrong about that?
No, yeah, they banned him.
Yeah. Okay.
It's going to be a bunch of people in gray jumpsuits who are saying, hi, how are you? You look nice. And that's all. There's going to be one default tweet you can press. You look nice. It's a beautiful day out. You can pick one.
Right.
Otherwise, people will be upset and then.
Well, it's like I remember Fran Lebowitz talking about how she liked the old New York when it was and now they Disneyfied, Times Square and everything. She's like, this isn't New York. And
Used to be gritty.
yeah, it used to be, there was a flavor to it, a bohemian, all that stuff. But let me just now watch here. So now here's the second part of this I want to play.
Valid argument in what we're trying to do to, again, increase the opportunity for as many people as possible to talk. That's it. It's not driving the
Where do you
outcomes.
stop?
So he's saying we want to increase the opportunity for more people to talk. So it sounds like he's for free speech, but what he's doing is defending curtailing people's free speech. And because he said, if I curtail some people's free speech and everyone's free speech in certain ways, then more people will speak. Yeah, but they'll have restrictions on their speech, right? That's what he's saying.
Here's what Twitter will be in 5 years. It's going to be all the centrists tweeting, I don't know.
Ha!
No strong opinions, no debate, just, I don't know.
So listen to how this sounds when you play it all together.
I hear the point. I definitely hear the point in terms of like us putting this rule forth, but we have to balance it with the fact that people are being driven away from our platform.
I hear you.
And they may not disagree. They may not agree with me on that, my folks from Missouri, but I think they would see some valid argument in what we're trying to do to, again, increase the opportunity for as many people as possible to talk. That's it. It's not driving the outcomes that you're speaking to.
Where do you stop? What community is and isn't deserving?
So I didn't get to the part I thought I had there where he says we're trying to encourage healthy conversation. I thought that was at the end of that clip, but it wasn't. And that whole thing about healthy conversation, it's like you pointed out, according to who?
Yeah.
According to you, the way you were raised, what you think is healthy, what's not healthy. And what if I'm an adult child of an alcoholic and I got some shit to work out or something? Who knows?
It's
you know what I
healthy
mean?
to vent and be mad sometimes. I mean,
Yeah,
stress balls for this,
And again, Marco Rubio is allowed to advocate for killing someone, an individual.
Yeah.
Like I always make the point how ironic it is. If you advocate for killing one person, they'll deplatform you. But if you advocate for killing a bunch of people, they'll give you a spot on MSNBC. Right? Like if it's in
line with American interests.
Yes.
Say Israel. Then you'll have both Democrats and Republicans telling you to shut up.
Mm-hmm. Look what's happening to Ilhan Omar right now. So,
Yeah.
So I just want to say thanks. This has been a really interesting conversation. It's been fantastic, and everybody should check out your YouTube. What's your website?
Well, I just YouTube Timcast.
YouTube Timcast.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody check out the Timcast. It is timcast.com. That's what it says on my paper.
That's the website, yeah. And my YouTube videos are there.
Okay.
I think our audiences might, differ on a lot of different points,
Our audiences?
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I think we focus on very different things.
we focus on different things? Yeah.
We have an overlap in speech and censorship and certain values, but I'm more focused on what we call the regressive left.
Oh, and I'm more focused on the corporate Democrats.
Right.
So you focus on someone who's to my left, maybe?
Yeah, I think
I think it's actually that the people that you're talking about, people who want to, they unwittingly start to implement authoritarian ideas and they call it left. It's not really left. If that's what you're talking about when you say regressive.
Yeah.
If that's what you mean, I don't know. I would always hear Dave Rubin say it. He called me that. So I never. One time,
he called you that regressive?
I mean, we were having an argument.
Okay. So it was maybe in hurt. He was like, you regressive.
Yeah, he was probably just.
I think you're one of like. I gotta say, I'm really honored that you invited me here. I think we have our political differences, but I don't care. I don't care if you're a communist. I care if you're a fascist. I don't want to talk to you. If you're a communist and you believe in some crazy things, but you're not authoritarian and you want to have a debate and discussion, I will talk to anybody at any time for any reason. Short of I've done interviews with some of the alt-right people, and I typically, it's cultural, but those people can, go.
Yeah, yeah. But again, Chris Hedges was on our show, and he made the great point out. Chris Hedges, remember, he had to leave the New York Times because he wouldn't stop telling the truth about the Iraq War. Remember that?
Yeah.
So they keep Thomas Friedman. They get rid of Chris Hedges.
Yeah.
But he says that there are no permanent allies. There's only permanent interests. That's pretty interesting when you think of it that way. And then you look at this, Bernie and Mike Lee just put together some bill, I think, for Yemen, or maybe it was somebody else. But it was like that happens a lot. Where someone who's unbelievably ideologically opposed, they come together because they agree on one issue. And I think that's what happened to me. I think you're going to need more people to get anti-war. Like, I don't care what else you care about. If you want to join my anti-war march to stop the war, that would be cool, right?
Yeah. I think America should stop policing, stop foreign, like most foreign military expenditures. And
I mean, Rand Paul's against war. He's against Ron Paul also.
Yep.
I'm with those guys. I'm I don't care if you're whatever, you're not for Medicare for all or whatever, but you're against the war. Let's get together and let's work on this problem.
Yeah.
And then I'll find other people who are for Medicare for all, work with them. I mean, that's just basic politics, right? But now they're trying to shame that. They're trying to shame that now.
Isn't it weird that there was a feminist who was banned from Twitter for misgendering, who then went on Ben Shapiro's show and talked in agreement? Blew my mind.
With Ben Shapiro?
Yeah, Ben Shapiro and a feminist having a conversation about the Twitter rules. I'm like, well, whatever that censorship behavior is, it's united the liberal and a feminist and a conservative, so that's weird, but...
Ben Shapiro is such a funny cat in a sense that, I know that he's so much smarter than me and more educated, and yet he can out-debate me if he wanted to. But
he's a fast talker.
Yeah,
he's a fast
very.
debater.
There's all tricks to that debate shit too. By the way, it's like how to put other people on their heels and how to control, and that's useful to know. I don't know it, but like I just see some stuff. He's just trolling his own followers half the time. He's tweeting out shit and saying stuff that I know he doesn't fucking believe.
I used to think that about a lot of people, but I'm much more trusting, and a lot of people don't like me for being as trusting. But I never like to assume that someone isn't passionate about what they're talking about or have a genuine reason to say it. So while
my bullshit detector goes off when Ben Shapiro talks, that's all I'm saying.
There are some people on the left and the right that I would say I know are grifters, but I think it's actually less than most people believe. You've got people on the left who are like, I know for a fact this person is a grifter. I've been accused of being a grifter. Has anyone ever called you a grifter?
Sure. Yes. Yeah.
So that's why I'm kind of like, you know what? I'm gonna give people the benefit of the doubt for at least a little bit. But I'm not going to name anybody, but I know some people on the right 100%.
No, I think Ben Shapiro totally believes his ideology and stuff, but I think that he uses examples and stuff that he knows are bogus. Like that one time he's like, hey, I went to a furniture store and I couldn't, and they had a $4,000 couch. Why shouldn't I have it? That's how Medicare for all works, right? Like he tried to make one of those horrible, he knows that's stupid. And that's what I mean. I think he's a real conservative, whatever he calls himself. I think he's a true believer.
Well, because that's about winning.
Right.
This is why I don't debate people. I'm like, I would never agree to a debate because debates have tactics for winning.
That's what I mean. That's what I say almost the same thing.
I actually...
that's weird, Tim, that we're from the same neighborhood and we almost say the same thing about debating.
Oh, yeah, but we didn't, that's not in the show that we're from the same neighborhood.
Oh, that's right. That was so crazy. Tim and I found out we're from 2 blocks away from each other in the same neighborhood.
That's mind-blowing.
That is mind-blowing.
But, I said to Dave Rubin the other day, I have an interview with him that's going to come out. I said, I think we would do good to get a pie in the face figuratively every so often, because if you don't have someone criticizing you, then how can you do better? So I think, I'm sure there's a lot of people who watch you who are probably going to be very critical of me, and they should be, and I welcome all of the criticism, and I read all of the nasty tweets and comments, because if I didn't, then I would just be a grifter. I'd be someone who refuses to learn and better myself, so...
Well, consider yourself lucky you have time to read all those comments, because I don't anymore. Like, they make so many videos about, like... It really is flattering. You have to look at it that way, because there's even a couple channels on YouTube just devoted to making videos about me. How could I be that important? I mean, I like to pretend I'm important, but that's...
Are they on the left?
Yeah, they're coming they think they're attacking me from the left, but they're not.
Yeah.
They're attacking me from the corporate left. But literally, and then there's of course other people, quote unquote YouTubers, lefty YouTubers who say stuff about me all the time that isn't true and slander me, and it's like you can't keep up with it. I never watched one of those videos, but I do sometimes read the comments just to see, and it's hilarious. Like their own followers don't agree.
I'll say this. I don't get into the petty. There's so many people who slam me and smear me, and I focus on big news.
I try to punch up.
individuals.
I try to punch up. So if I'm going to punch at someone, I try to make sure it's someone above me.
When I go for any kind of punching, it's going to be the top of the top. It's going to be the people who are the most prominent and most influential, and even a few grades above me. You know, like I don't consider this punching up with Jack Dorsey or anything like that, but he is a super.
Jack Dorsey.
I mean, it's punching up, but I mean, like, I typically don't want to like. Is Jack Dorsey as an individual the most important person? Am I gonna make videos insulting him?
No.
So what I mean is, punching up. I get when people say like Jimmy Dore is X. Well, who cares about Jimmy Dore? Talk about the idea.
Yes.
Talk about the concepts he's wrong about.
Right.
And say Jimmy Dore is wrong. Here's what he talked about. His idea is bad. Instead, they say Jimmy Dore's a grifter, and Tim Pool is just lying.
Yeah.
It's like I don't talk about people. Like I don't talk about the nitty gritty drama BS. I avoid all of that. Very rarely. I have before when certain hit pieces come up from big institutions. But if someone wants to lie about me and smear me on Twitter, I get emails all day like, are you going to answer this guy?
Yeah, no.
There were some alt-right guys that leaked audio came out where they were trying to paint me as a fascist to get me banned. And I'm like, I am saying nothing. I am ignoring this, and I will never interact with these people because that's what they want. I'm going to keep doing my thing.
Yes, very smart. So that happened to me. I got baited. I'm going to just make the last point is that I remember like the first time someone made an attack video on me or whatever, they wanted to insult me. And I remember I was telling someone about it. I'm like, can you believe this guy? Blah, 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 blah. They go, who did that? I go, blah, blah, blah did it. And they go, who's that? And I was like, oh. And a big light bulb went off. I'm like, oh, no one even knows who the fuck these people are. I'm not going to. And so that was that. And now I never, and it seems to drive people crazy if you don't acknowledge them.
There's one guy who he tweeted during the Rogan podcast that I was a far right conspiracy theorist.
This is crazy.
But it worked, and someone made a meme because in the Rogan podcast I said there are these journalists who will accuse you of being a Nazi and a fascist. They'll call you alt-right, and they'll try and get you fired from your job and all that stuff. And they put that picture of me with the quote next to that guy calling me that. And now his name and his Twitter is going far and wide. And look, the people who are like free speech activists or, libertarian left or right are going to be like, haha, that guy's so dumb. But the authoritarian types are going to be like, haha, he's making fun of Tim Pool. I'm going to follow him. And he got free press. No such thing as bad press, right? So that's why I ignore him.
Tim, it's been great. We got to wrap it up. I'd like to talk to you all day. We'll have you in. Again, we love to have you in. But thanks again for taking time out.
Yeah, thank you.
We're announcing our dates for 2019. We're going to Ventura Comedy Club, March 31st, Tempe, Arizona, Austin, Texas, Portland, Chicago, and lots more. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a list of all our dates and live shows. And please become a patron. We give you hours of bonus material. And please make sure you're subscribed. Even if you think you're subscribed, they unsubscribe people every day, and you might be one of them. Check to make sure you're subscribed, and then you have to click the bell twice so they send you a notification when we drop a video. Thanks for your support.